Start. Oh, I haven't put you. That's fine.
Okay. Here in New Jersey, the penalty for possession of cocaine with the intent to distribute is a maximum of 20 years in prison, as compared with second-degree sexual assault, which has a maximum penalty of only 10 years in prison. Both first degree, which is the most serious and violent form of sexual assault, and possession of cocaine with the intent to distribute yield maximum penalties of 20 years in prison. There's something seriously wrong with that. I believe that this is a huge indication of a problem in our American justice system. According to the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Statistics, the average sentence given to child molesters was approximately 7 years, with 3 of these 7 years typically being served. That's absolutely pathetic. My name is Caitlin Pendergast, and today I'm going to be talking about why I believe that in this country, the penalty for child molestation needs to be severely increased. And I'm also going to be advocating a law known as Jessica's Law that would do just this. But before I go into detail about what Jessica's Law is exactly, it's really important to understand what a severe problem sexual abuse, especially to children, is in this country. There are currently 11,873 registered sex offenders in New Jersey. And the National Institute of Mental Health reports that a typical child sex offender molests an average of 117 children, most of whom do not report the offense. A Nevada State prison psychologist was quoted saying that the serial killer has the same personality characteristics as the sex offender against children. And in my personal opinion, both murdering someone and to sexually abuse a child requires the same amount of complete disregard for human life. However, sexual assault is not punished accordingly. There are a number of very tragic consequences for the victims of sexual assault, especially when it's committed at a very young age. They're often hard, if not impossible, to repair as they grow into adulthood. A few common ones are things like depression and low senses of self-esteem, but some statistics that back these up are that sexual abuse survivors report a lot of drug and alcohol usage problems. In fact, 70 to 80% of them report this. And nearly 50% of women in prison say that they were abused as children. And among male survivors, more than 70% seek psychological treatment for issues such as substance abuse and suicidal thoughts. So what is the Jessica Lunsford Act? Well, the key provisions of this act would include that all who commit sex crimes to children under the age of 12 would receive a minimum sentence of 25 years to life in jail, and this would include first-time offenders as well. It would also include lifetime electronic tracking and monitoring of child molesters when they are out of prison, and sexual predators who murder their victims would now qualify for the death penalty in capital cases. And lastly, just stricter punishments for sex crimes in general, including child molestation and other types. So where did the Jessica Lunsford Act come from? In year 2005, in the state of Florida, a young girl who's 9 years old by the name of Jessica Marie Lunsford was kidnapped from her home by a 48-year-old man, where she was taken to his home and kidnapped over the course of 3 days, kept in a closet, and raped repeatedly. At the end of these 3 days, she was buried alive, causing her to suffocate. The Jessica Lunsford Act was passed as a response to this horrific tragedy. And luckily, many states in America have passed this law, or at least some provision of it. But 18 states have failed to enact Jessica's Law, and New Jersey is one of them. And as I said before, I'm very passionate about getting this law passed nationwide, starting here in New Jersey. So what are the reasons why some states, such as New Jersey, have failed to enact this law? In my research, again, about the arguments against Jessica's Law, my own conviction that it needed to be passed actually increased dramatically. I went to one source called the Californians Against Jessica's Law. Basically, what was full of a lot of very over-dramatic, outlandish arguments and statements like this one above. I won't even take the time to read it, but basically that was the gist of what their arguments were all about. A few recurrent anti-Jessica's Law arguments that I came across included, what if they were wrongfully convicted of a sex crime, then they would be exposed to much harsher penalties for a crime they didn't even commit. But to that I have to say, being wrongfully convicted of a sex crime is a completely different problem in and of itself. And Jessica's Law is meant to serve true justice to those who actually are guilty. So that has nothing to do with the actual law in and of itself. Another common argument against Jessica's Law is the argument that I believe is absolutely absurd, that child molesters should have rehabilitation rather than punishment. Think of serial killers. Just because many serial killers suffer from what is known as sociopathic disorder, which is an actual mental disorder, that's not used as an excuse to give them more lenient sentencing. So even if child molesters actually are suffering from some kind of a mental disease, that should be no excuse for them either. The last argument that I came across a lot of was what I like to call the poor pedophiles argument. It was basically a lot of whining about how the people who were convicted of child sex crimes would have to wear GPS shackles, would have problems, shackles, and would have problems finding jobs and homes, and the possibility of them getting out on good behavior would be totally eradicated, which I think are all wonderful things. So, as I said before, the arguments against Jessica's Law were at the very best unconvincing. So what can we do? Obviously, tell your friends, loved ones, families about Jessica's Law and about, just get the word out. And you can also write to legislator. This is Governor John Corzine's email. I'm also going to be passing out slips with all this information on it for everyone, so you don't have to copy it down now. But that's his email address. There's a website called the Jessica Marie Lunsford Foundation, which is basically full of more information, like a more in-depth look at Jessica's Law. And it has a lot of ways that you can support and donate to the foundation and help out with the family. And of course, there's a Facebook group called Pass Jessica's Law in New Jersey, which is actually made by a writer student here. So I would definitely recommend joining that. And to conclude, I feel this quote by Pearl S. Buck really sums up what I'm trying to say in this presentation. If our American way of life fails a child, it fails us all. So please, I urge everyone to do what you can to try to get Jessica's Law passed, and more importantly, to recognize how important it is to protect the rights of the most innocent and helpless of all citizens, which are the children. Thank you.
729.
That's probably going to go over.